Your brain plays a far more active role in creating your reality than most people realize. It's not just a passive organ that receives information from the outside world. It's an interpreter, a filter, and in many ways, a generator of the experiences you live through. At the core of this idea is the understanding that what you consistently focus on determines how your brain rewires itself. This isn't a philosophical metaphor, it's a biological process backed by neuroscience. The neurons in your brain form connections based on repeated input, and over time, those connections form the foundation of your perception, habits, and identity. This is why two people can live through the same situation and walk away with completely different perspectives. Their brains were trained to see, feel, and react differently. If you constantly focus on what's going wrong, your neural circuitry reinforces fear, anxiety, and helplessness. On the other hand, if you deliberately train your mind to focus on opportunity, growth, and purpose, your brain starts building patterns that support those outcomes. This process is not instantaneous. It doesn't work like a light switch, but rather like sculpting. Every thought, every emotion, every repetition is a stroke of the chisel. Over time, those neural patterns become stronger, more automatic, and more influential over how you respond to life. Your brain literally begins to anticipate and interpret the world through the lens you've installed through focus and intention. This means you're not just reacting to the world, you are co-creating your experience with it. It also explains why people who practice mindfulness, visualization, and focused gratitude experience profound changes. They're not just doing positive thinking, they're engaging in deliberate neurobiological training. You don't have to wait for a miracle or a major event to start changing your life. You simply need to choose every day what you will focus on, because that focus is shaping your neural circuitry, your internal reality, and eventually your external outcomes. It is a mistake to think that reality is entirely objective. While the world around us is real and measurable, the way we interpret and interact with that world is deeply subjective. Your brain is wired to protect you, to predict outcomes, and to form shortcuts that help you survive. But if you're not aware of what you're focusing on, your brain might reinforce patterns that don't serve you. If you think you're not enough or that success is out of reach, your brain will start filtering the world to confirm those beliefs. This is where the opportunity lies. When you consciously decide to focus on goals, on possibility, on a specific outcome you deeply care about, your brain begins to reorganize itself to support that vision. The simple act of choosing a better focus and holding it consistently has the power to change the structure of your brain. And once that changes, your thoughts, your behaviors, your emotions, and your results follow. It's not just about seeing the world differently, it's about becoming someone different from the inside out. This is the biological basis for what many call manifestation, and it starts with one of the most powerful tools we all possess: focused attention. Neuroplasticity is one of the most remarkable features of the human brain. It is the biological mechanism that allows your brain to change its structure and function in response to experience, learning, and repeated thought. This is not just a scientific curiosity. It is the foundation of personal transformation. When we talk about quantum manifestation, we're not referring to a magical or mystical force. We're talking about a repeatable, biologically submerging process that stems from how your brain wires and rewires itself based on what you focus on, what you feel, and what you do repeatedly. Every time you hold a vision of your desired outcome in your mind, whether it's success in your career, better health, or deeper relationships, you are firing specific neurons. When those same neurons fire together consistently, they begin to wire together. Over time, this forms new neural pathways that influence your automatic thoughts, decisions, and behaviors. The brain doesn't know the difference between an experience that is vividly imagined and one that is real. When you visualize a goal in great detail and do so repeatedly, especially with emotion, your brain treats it as if it's already happening. This process creates a form of internal rehearsal. Your nervous system begins to become familiar with the outcome. It stops perceiving it as a threat or something foreign and starts adapting to accommodate it. This is why elite athletes, performers, and innovators across disciplines use visualization as a core part of their training. It's not just mental practice, it's neurological priming. You can literally prepare your brain to succeed before you take any physical action. And the more you do this, the more natural the desired behavior becomes. Eventually, the vision is no longer something you're just thinking about. It becomes part of who you are. Yet this biological simplicity is often overlooked. Many people think of manifestation as wishful thinking because they don't understand that there's a scientific process behind it. When you deliberately engage in repeated visualizations and combine that with aligned behavior, you are using neuroplasticity to your advantage. You are turning an idea into a pattern and a pattern into a habit. From a neural standpoint, what fires together wires together. And once it's wired, it becomes easier to act on. This is why change often feels hard in the beginning. Your brain is still running on old circuits. But the more you reinforce the new pattern through visualization, intention, and behavior, the easier it becomes. You are teaching your brain a new reality and training it to help you navigate the path toward it. The simplicity of this approach is what makes it so powerful. It doesn't require advanced technology or complicated strategies. It requires focus, repetition, and the willingness to engage emotionally with your goals. Over time, the structure of your brain begins to reflect your chosen future, and that internal shift makes external change inevitable. This is the essence of quantum manifestation through the lens of neuroscience. It is not a miracle. It is a mechanism, and it's available to anyone who chooses to engage with it deliberately. Manifestation, at its core, is the combination of intention and action. Intention gives direction to the mind, while action gives it momentum. When the two are aligned, the brain is placed in a state of readiness, continuously organizing your internal processes to match the outcomes you seek. Many people misunderstand this process because they believe thinking alone is enough. But without action, intention remains dormant, like a signal never sent. Your brain needs signals, feedback, and patterns to create meaningful change. When you set a clear intention, you're providing your brain with a goal to aim toward. This goal starts to activate the neural networks associated with planning, decision-making, motivation, and perception. You begin to see the world not just as it is, but in terms of how it can be shaped to support your purpose. Taking action, no matter how small, sends a powerful feedback loop to the brain. It confirms that your intention is real and worth investing in. The more consistently you act in alignment with your goal, the more your brain updates its internal model of who you are and what you're capable of. This begins to shift your identity, not just through thought, but through lived experience. Over time, new behaviors become easier, more natural, and even automatic. You start to develop habits that reinforce the goal you originally envisioned. The process of manifestation becomes self-sustaining. But this only works if there is a clear connection between your internal focus and your external behavior. Without action, the brain doesn't get the feedback it needs to reinforce the new wiring. Without intention, your actions lack direction and are scattered, reducing their impact. Many people abandon their goals not because they're incapable, but because they allow emotional states, fear, self-doubt, or impatience to interrupt the process. Emotion is powerful. It can either fuel your actions or paralyze them. That's why aligning your intention with a purpose that genuinely excites or inspires you is critical. When you care deeply about something, your brain produces neurochemicals like dopamine that energize and sustain action. This emotional engagement acts as an amplifier. It helps you stay consistent even when the outcomes are not immediately visible. And that consistency is where most people fall short. They expect instant results, but the brain doesn't work that way. It operates through repetition, reinforcement, and gradual transformation. The truth is, quantum manifestation isn't difficult. It's just rarely followed through. The process is clear. Create a compelling vision, hold it with emotional intensity, and then take actions, even small ones, every day that align with that vision. Over time, your brain begins to adapt. It builds new circuits that support new patterns of thinking and behaving. That's how dreams move from imagination to reality. Not all at once, but step by step, through the consistent alignment of internal purpose and external action. It's simple, but it requires responsibility. You are the one who must keep your attention focused, your motivation alive, and your behavior in motion. And when those three elements converge, the brain rewires itself to not just believe in change, but to embody it. And that's how manifestation works at the level of biology. And that's why it's powerful if you choose to apply it. Focus is not just a mental exercise. It is a biological function deeply rooted in how your brain filters reality. At the center of this process is a powerful system called the Reticular Activating System, or RAS. This bundle of neurons acts as a gatekeeper between your conscious mind and the sensory information flooding your brain every second. Out of millions of bits of data that your senses detect, the RAS chooses what to highlight and what to ignore. The criteria it uses to make these decisions are based on what you tell it is important through your thoughts, beliefs, and goals. When you set a clear intention and repeatedly focus on it, you are literally training your RAS to filter the world in a way that brings that goal into sharper focus. It begins to prioritize information, people, and opportunities that align with your intention, even if you were previously unaware of them. And this is why setting goals and visualizing them consistently is not a passive process. It rewires your internal filter. You begin to notice conversations, ideas, patterns, and openings in the world around you that you would have otherwise missed. It's not that those things suddenly appeared. They were always there, but your brain wasn't attuned to them. Think about the last time you bought a new car or decided on a specific model you liked. Suddenly, you started seeing that same car everywhere. That's your RAS in action. It's not that the world changed. Your brain just recalibrated its filter. The same principle applies to your goals and intentions. If you focus on what's missing or what you fear, your RAS will filter the world to show you more of that. But if you focus on what you want and condition your mind to expect progress, the RAS will begin to highlight pathways that support it. Your focus is essentially a biological command. It tells your nervous system what to seek out and what to discard. And because your brain's ability to change is governed by repetition, the more consistently you focus on something, the more ingrained that filter becomes. Over time, you develop what's known as selective perception, where your brain automatically hones in on information that supports your chosen reality. This is why focus must be deliberate and intentional. It's not enough to casually think about your goals. You must revisit them daily with clarity and emotion so that your RAS knows to prioritize them. You're training your brain to collaborate with your future, to bring alignment between what you think, feel, and see in the world around you. The mistake many people make is assuming that focus is simply about concentration. But real focus is about setting a clear signal to your brain about what matters. And because your biology responds to that signal, maintaining a focused mind is a form of active programming. It's your way of influencing what you experience in your external world by first mastering what you emphasize internally. This is why even small mental shifts can lead to big behavioral changes. When your RAS is aligned with your goals, you begin to move through the world differently. You make different choices, interpret events differently, and stay more resilient when faced with obstacles. This isn't luck or coincidence, it's neuroscience. Your brain is designed to help you manifest your reality, but only if you take control of what it's focusing on. If you let the world decide your focus, you'll be reactive. But if you choose your focus deliberately and train it daily, you'll shape your reality from the inside out. Emotion is one of the most powerful tools available for shaping your brain and transforming your life. It acts as an amplifier for learning, memory, and behavior. When combined with intentional thought, emotion creates a biological environment where change happens more rapidly and more deeply. And this is because emotional states increase the levels of key neurochemicals such as dopamine, norepinephrine, and acetylcholine, which heighten focus, increase motivation, and improve neuroplasticity. In other words, when you think about a goal and attach strong emotion to it, excitement, gratitude, anticipation, your brain registers it as highly important. It begins to encode that thought more deeply, wiring it into your subconscious as something that matters. This emotional charge ensures that the brain keeps returning to that vision, reinforcing it through repeated neural activation. This is why it's not enough to visualize your goals mechanically. If you simply go through the motions without feeling anything, your brain won't prioritize that information. It won't generate the neurochemical cocktail required for long-term memory and behavior change. But if you engage with your goal fully, imagine it vividly, feel the success in your body, and allow yourself to emotionally connect with the outcome, you create a neurological environment that accelerates change. Your brain begins to form a stronger and more stable representation of the future you want. That emotional engagement makes it easier to stay focused, more likely to take action, and more resilient when facing setbacks. Emotion helps wire belief into your nervous system, and belief is what sustains momentum when progress is slow. This process is deeply tied to the concept of internal motivation. When your emotional connection to a goal is strong, you don't need external validation to keep moving. The drive comes from within, and that's powerful because internal motivation is much more stable and long-lasting than motivation driven by outcomes or praise. When you're emotionally invested, your brain continues to generate energy and focus even when external conditions aren't ideal. You become someone who shows up consistently, even when it's hard. And that consistency is what builds identity-level change. You don't just work toward your goals, you start to embody the mindset, emotions, and habits of the person who lives that reality. Most people underestimate the importance of emotional alignment. They set goals based on logic or external expectations, but feel no deep connection to them. Without that emotional charge, the brain doesn't treat the goal as meaningful. It doesn't fully engage its learning and adaptation systems. That's why many goals fizzle out. They were mentally interesting, but emotionally weak. To truly engage your biology, you must care deeply. You must allow yourself to feel the joy, gratitude, or even the urgency of change. Emotion is not just a byproduct of success, it's a critical input in the process of creating it. When emotion, intention, and action are in alignment, you create a powerful neurological synergy. Your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors all start pointing in the same direction. This alignment reinforces itself over time, making it easier to maintain the habits and focus needed to manifest your goals. It's not about forcing belief. It's about feeling your way into it and letting that emotional certainty shape your reality. This is where manifestation becomes more than just a mental exercise. It becomes a full body, full mind experience that activates the very systems your brain uses to create lasting change. Emotion gives your vision weight, urgency, and depth. It makes it real to your nervous system. And once something becomes real inside you, it's only a matter of time before it begins to shape the world around you. Consistency is the bridge between intention and transformation. It is the repeated engagement with a thought, behavior, or emotional state that instructs the brain to reinforce specific neural pathways. Most people overestimate the power of intensity and underestimate the power of repetition. A single moment of motivation may spark inspiration, but it is the steady, daily application of effort and focus that truly reshapes the brain and life. From a neurological standpoint, the brain doesn't respond to what you do occasionally, it responds to what you do consistently. Every time you revisit your vision, practice focused attention, or engage with emotion toward your goal, you're strengthening those pathways, and over time, what was once effortful becomes natural. What was once a conscious act becomes an automatic behavior. This is how identity is formed, not through occasional inspiration, but through repeated alignment between intention and action. One of the most powerful aspects of consistency is its cumulative effect. Small actions may seem insignificant in the moment, but each one is a signal to the brain. This matters. Your nervous system takes note. The systems responsible for attention, memory, and habit formation begin to collaborate. This is why even just 5 minutes of daily visualization, reflection, or goal-oriented behavior can produce profound change over weeks and months. The brain is always listening, always adapting, and always looking for patterns. If the pattern you present is clear and consistent, your brain will devote more resources to reinforcing it. This means neurochemicals like dopamine will be released not just when you achieve something big, but when you consistently stay in alignment with your vision. This chemical reinforcement strengthens your motivation and gives you the energy to stay the course. The difficulty for many people is not in knowing what to do, it's in staying consistent long enough for the brain and life to change. This is where structure and routine become valuable tools. You don't need a perfect plan, you need a repeatable process. Systems help automate success by reducing reliance on motivation and increasing predictability. When your brain knows what to expect, when your habits become rituals, you reduce resistance and increase momentum. You move from thinking about success to embodying it. The emotional highs and lows begin to matter less because your actions are no longer dictated by temporary feelings. They're driven by a clear internal commitment. That shift is powerful because it signals to the brain that this goal is part of your identity, not just a passing desire. It happens when you miss a day or fall off track. The brain is forgiving, but clarity is essential. Instead of quitting or doubting, use that moment to return to your intention. Remind your nervous system what matters. The speed of your progress is not as important as the direction. Consistency is not about perfection, it's about persistence. Each time you return to your goal, even after a setback, you reinforce resilience. You teach your brain that this is a long-term pattern, not a temporary phase. Over time, this builds self-trust, which is a critical ingredient in sustainable manifestation. When you trust yourself to show up consistently, you become less attached to outcomes and more focused on the process. Consistency transforms potential into identity. It turns scattered ideas into integrated systems. It refines your focus, deepens your emotional engagement, and anchors your actions into daily life. It is the most overlooked but essential element of transformation. Without it, even the best intentions dissolve. But with it, even the smallest actions become catalysts for lasting change. Your brain is designed to adapt, but it requires a signal strong enough, clear enough, and consistent enough to follow. That signal is created by daily repetition. This is how manifestation works in real biological terms. Not through wishful thinking, but through steady, focused engagement with your future self. The life you want isn't created in a single leap. It's built in daily steps, repeated until they become second nature. That's the power of consistency.